What are the 8 traps to watch for before you claim Social Security spousal or survivor benefits?
For over a quarter century now, I've been helping people with their retirement. And in that time, we've dealt with a lot of situations where people become suddenly single. A lot of decisions have to be made. And one of those decisions that we have to make is regarding Social Security. Claiming strategies, when we become eligible, how to increase the benefit that's available to us, and a lot of the things that impact this. And we want to make sure that we maximize our lifetime income after taxes with regard to Social Security. So we'll be getting into this in this video. So my name's Joe Franklin, and here at the Mustard Seed we're all about putting faith with finances. We care more about what the Word says than what ChatGPT or any AI bot says. And today we're going to be focusing on the numbers and what the government allows us to do with regard to Social Security. So let's get right into that.
In what ways does Social Security penalize the suddenly single? Firstly, in order for you to be entitled to Social Security, you need to show a minimum of 10 years of earnings.
The Social Security Administration chooses how to pay us on our lifetime earnings, meaning 35 years of work. So if we have a bunch of zeros in there, if we haven't worked a full 35 years, our benefit isn't going to be as high as it could be. So if you've worked 25 years, you've got 10 more years to put in before your benefit gets to be what it can be. Now, if your spouse has already put in that 35 years, it's much more likely that his or her benefit is quite a bit higher. So we want to look at choosing that spousal benefit potentially. If he or she's already passed away, we can do that as early as age 60. There's going to be a reduction in the benefit, kind of like what you see when you draw at age 62, and it's your own benefit. But at age 60, you can draw the spousal benefit. They're going to reduce it, but it may be worthwhile for you to draw that. We're going to, again, get into a case study here a little bit later. Not only are you going to get a reduction in the benefit if you start drawing prior to your full retirement age, but if you're still working, you're also likely to have to pay these nasty penalties. So if you're over 62 and you decide to start drawing, they're going to take $1 away for every dollar you make over the limit. And the limit this year is $23,400. If you make $43,400, that's $20,000 over the limit, so you give up half of that. So you have to pay $10,000 of your Social Security back to the government. Now you have a year to decide to take that back and not draw Social Security. You pay that back and they give you this one chance to fix it. But after that, you can't do any fixes. So you got to make sure that you know what you're doing and you decide, hey, I know I'm not going to be working anymore. Let's go ahead and start drawing Social Security, because if you think you're going to earn more than $24,000 during any time before the time you turn your full retirement age, which for most people is 67, then you probably don't want to start drawing any Social Security. When you get to be your full retirement age, you can kind of choose when you want to draw. It could be right at the beginning of the year, it could be halfway through the year. We don't know until we figure out what you're going to earn throughout the year and when you want to start drawing. So a lot of people want to wait until their full retirement age to start drawing. But what they can do is they can choose to draw the spousal benefit and let their benefit keep growing. Now, you can't do this if your spouse hasn't passed away, but if your spouse has passed away, you can choose to start drawing the spousal benefit and let your benefit keep growing. And then when you turn 70, you can turn your benefit on. A lot of times your benefit may be higher than your spousal benefit at age 70 because you put in the extra years and got all that extra income. If we're suddenly single due to our spouse passing away, we have an option to be able to choose which benefit we take rather than having Social Security choose for us. You can choose to draw on him or her pretty early. You can choose to draw as early as 60. But there's going to be some situations involved with this. There's going to be some penalties for drawing a little bit early. Now, when we look at this, you can see that the amount you can draw at age 62 is quite a bit less than what you can draw at age 67, and it's still less than what you can draw at age 70. Now, if you haven't put in the full 10 years, you cannot draw on your own. So you got to work at least 10 years to get your own Social Security. If your spouse has passed away, then you can draw on him or her. If you're divorced and you haven't gotten remarried, you can still draw on him or her. But if you've gotten remarried, then you've got to work with your current spouse. And if your current spouse hasn't started drawing Social Security yet, you can't get the spousal benefit. If you haven't gotten remarried by age 60, then you have a few more benefits with Social Security than if you get remarried prior to 60. If your spouse is alive or your ex-spouse is still alive, you can choose to draw a spousal benefit after age 62. If you're currently married to your spouse, you have to wait until he or she starts drawing benefits on his or her own before you're able to start drawing those spousal benefits. But if you are divorced from your ex-spouse, you don't have to wait. You can choose to draw these spousal benefits at any time, of course, as long as you've been married to him or her for at least 10 years in the past and you didn't get married before 60. But you have to start drawing at age 62 or later. Now, if you start drawing at 62, your spousal benefits are also going to be subject to the reduction that's similar to what you can see on your Social Security benefits. It's going to be reduced by quite a bit. So you may not want to start drawing at 62. You may want to wait until later. And you're also may be subject to these penalties as well if you're still working. So there's a lot of people out there that look at drawing Social Security at 62, and a lot of people just want to do it. They want to make sure they get their money before the government decides not to pay Social Security anymore, even though they've been paying for almost 100 years now. They'd start drawing at 62 and they may be subject to these penalties and the reductions, and it's not always in your best interest to do this, and that's why we like to look at the math. So again, all this is subject to a lot of variables. It's subject to variables such as how much your spouse earned, how much Social Security benefit he or she has is coming to him or her, what maybe our deceased spouse's benefit is, and how long we plan on living. All these things are a factor in figuring out when to take Social Security and what's going to be the best solution. So here we're going to be taking a look at a case study to see what's the best solution in this one case. So we'll get right into that. So in this case study, we're looking at Sandy Sample, and Sandy is 57 years of age. That's the average age of widowhood in America today. She's worked part-time for 10 years. She's worked full-time for 15 years. She's eligible for benefits because she's put in the full 10 years or 40 quarters, but her own benefit isn't going to be that high because she only has 25 years in so far. She's got to put in at least another 10 years in order to get 35 years to consider and not have a bunch of zeros in figuring what her Social Security benefit is. But her husband has passed away. If she gets remarried before 60, we're going to look at what happens if she gets remarried versus what happens if she doesn't get remarried, and also what happens if she starts drawing the spousal benefit and lets hers grow, or other options that she may want to look at. We're going to be looking at filing what's called a restricted application and getting the best of both worlds. So let's get right into this case study here. Let's look at the suddenly single Social Security scenarios. Say that 5 times fast. We're looking at scenario 1 here. In this case, Sally Sample is widowed at age 57. She gets remarried at age 58. Now, getting remarried wipes out her widow's benefit. So if she gets remarried, the government doesn't like that. So he earns a little bit more than she does. She stops working at age 58. This is what her benefit would be at 62 versus 67 versus 70. And if she chooses to draw half of his isn't as good as her full one, so it doesn't make any sense for her to draw half of his. So if she wanted to start drawing at 62, then it would be about $17,000 a year. If she waited till 67, it'd be $24,000 and then $30,000 at age 70. So she might want to start drawing at 62 if we think we're going to earn enough on the investments. Now, in scenario 2 here, again, she's widowed at 57. She gets remarried at 58. She stops working at 62, so she's able to put in more years, and so that allows her Social Security benefit to be higher. So if she started drawing at 62, it'd be $21,000 a year, and $31,000 at 67, $38,000 some odd at 70. And then here in scenario 3, she keeps working until age 67 because you've got that extra 5 years to gain the full 35 years of earnings. And if she starts drawing Social Security at 62, that wouldn't be quite the $26,000 because she hasn't put in the full 35 years yet. But even if it was, then she'd have to be paying that all back in penalties because you're penalized $1 for every $2 you make above that $23,000. So she's paying this all back. So she doesn't want to start drawing at 62. She keeps working. If she keeps working to 67, then it'll be $37,400 and some odd dollars. If she quits working at 67, but let's just compound to 70, then be around $46,416. So you can see how it grows a little bit more over time as she puts in the extra years. If she waits to get remarried, this changes a little bit, because if she waits to get remarried till after 60, she can start drawing her widow's benefit at 60. So if she stops working at 58, if she gets remarried at 60, then her widow's benefit's going to be around $29,755. You can compare that to what she would draw if she got remarried. That's quite a bit more. If she waits to draw her widow's benefit till age 67, that'd be around $41,616. But if she waits till 70, there's no additional benefit for her to wait. Now, her benefit at age 70 would be $30,132 if she were to switch to her benefit, so there's no benefit to switch to her benefit either. So we don't want to do that. So we're going to draw at age 67 potentially, and just draw $41,616 for the rest of her life. Now, this last scenario, this is where she can get the most amount of money. She gets widowed at 57, she gets remarried after 60, and she stops working at 67. She's able to keep earning and putting into Social Security so she can get more back from Social Security. If she started drawing the widow's benefit at age 60, again, she'd earn a decent bit. She'd earn about $29,755, but she'd have to pay it all back in penalties because she's making quite a bit above that. That isn't any fun to pay it all back and get zero. Now, she could start doing this and realize she made a mistake and decide to pay it all back within a year and do the do-over, so she could do that. So that would be what a lot of people would do if they did this by mistake. But in this case, she's continuing to work till age 67. She's drawing her widow's benefit at age 67. But since she knew to do a restricted application, she is able to draw the widow's benefit starting at 67 and let her benefit continue to compound. So since she did a restricted application, she's drawing her husband's or ex-husband's widow's benefit, letting hers compound. At age 70, she's able to get this $46,416, just like up here. But in this case, she drew this $41,616, which is a difference for a little bit over $4,000 that she's able to draw in addition by letting hers compound and starting up the widow's benefit. So she did not get remarried in this case until after 60. She was able to get more money here, about $4,000 a year, so I guess that's an extra $12,000, and then able to get this higher amount for the rest of her life. So in this case, scenario 5 pays back the most over her lifetime because she waited to get remarried, and then she did the restricted application, drew off her deceased husband for a few years, and then drew the maximum amount for her own benefit after that. We've also got taxes to consider. We've been paying taxes for our Social Security all our lives, and then when we retire, they're going to pay us back, but they're going to tax us on what they're paying us back. And these limits haven't increased since the Reagan administration. So it's all the way back to 1985. It's 40 years now that they haven't increased the limits. So just about everybody's subject to these limits. They figure up half of your Social Security, and they add in all your taxable income, whether you've earned it or you got it through unearned income, like from stocks and bonds and things of that nature, and distributions from IRAs and rental income, all that stuff. And then they add in your tax-free income from things like tax-free bonds. And if that adds up to be more than a certain amount, they're going to either tax you on 50% of your Social Security or 85% of your Social Security. But there's one thing that they didn't consider when they figured the taxing on this. They didn't consider the income that you get from tax-free distributions. So one strategy you can utilize, and you have to do this relatively early, is start converting things to Roth and adding to Roth and add to those HSA plans or health savings account plans. And those are the areas where if you draw from this, they're not going to tax you on that, and you may be able to avoid taxes on a lot of your Social Security by doing this. Because of the senior deduction, they're saying that 88% of Americans today are not going to have to pay taxes on their Social Security. But if you're single and you make over $75,000, you're not going to get this full deduction. If you haven't started taking Social Security yet, you may want to delay taking Social Security until after the senior deduction is over, which is in 2028, And if you do that, it may be that you are able to collect the deduction now and also let your Social Security grow over time, because it grows 8% for every year that you don't draw. It's always good to look at the numbers and see what's going to be the best solution in your case. A lot of different variables play into this. You want to look at stress testing this based upon the variables. Usually the solution presents itself, and it's good to go through the numbers, and you gain a lot of certainty and a lot of peace when you see the solution present itself to you. Since you love this video, please feel free to click on this video here. That might also be fun for you to watch. And be sure to put your thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. We'll catch up with you next time.